the elusive mechanical speed sensor for an E153 transmission. Let's see if I can make this thing work. This thing already looks a little better from just handling it, but it's so rusty that won't even turn. Obviously the gear is broken off, so that's probably in the original transmission somewhere, actually. Those aren't meant to come off. Oh, yikes. Right. This whole thing has to be replaced with a new gear and key. And these should just come apart. Success. So, I've seen some of these broken. I guess people try to hammer it to move it, get it moving, or to try to extract it. What I did, I felt like the least amount of damage. Got a thin screwdriver, just hammered it in the sides here, back and forth, until it actually went in all the way to the bottom, and then I got a thicker screwdriver and did it again until I was able to move it back and forth and work it, and then I was able to, well, pull it apart. And wowzers, it's rusty in there. This is the part that I'm super worried about restoring this function. I don't even know if it's possible, but we're gonna try. Success again. So, well, one step at a time. I really worked both sides with the penetrating spray, just back and forth, not forcing these, until finally I got movement. And now it definitely spins freely, and that's great. Although it's so rusty, every time I spray solvent in there, it just pours out rust. So my next step is to figure out how to take these brass caps off. Probably gonna drill a hole and screw in and just pull it out so I can access all the internals, clean them so that they can be re-lubed, so that when it's working at high speed, they don't bind up in any way and break the worm gear. So I went back and polished everything up as much as possible, and I think this is the state it's going to be in to go back in. You know, sort of polished everything, and so it's clean. I think it'll accept grease and spin freely. But the rusting was so bad. It really pitted everything and textured everything. I had to file and polish up my one of my favorite tools here. But also there were some threads that were kind of like marred and kind of grooved, so I had to take a file and clean those up. I'm not sure why that happened. I did have to order a new worm drive with the 30-35 gear, a new key, and a new lower because of the inner seal that just disintegrated when it pulled out because it was so rusted together. So I can tell right now that this video is going to be kind of long, but I guess this stuff's kind of interesting, and it's always good to know remember some of the things that went into the process. A couple things that I learned. So when putting these gears back in, they have to interface together and cross up, and they don't fit if you put them in at the same time. So you have to lower one stack of the washers that are on the one shaft all the way to the bottom first, put the other shaft in, and then you can slide the second shaft in, and then it fits together nicely. Then the kind of cap that holds it all together, you can't press it in by hand all the way, so I tapped it in with a socket and sort of tapped it in on one, then the other, and back and forth until it seated nicely. But then I found that it was kind of binding. And so I realized one had a little bit of play. I don't know if you can see that. And the other one didn't. So I just used a punch to kind of tap it back out just a tad until the gear had a little bit of play in it, just a tad. And now it's super smooth, super smooth. I'm very happy about that. Now, it does feel a little draggy because I think I used a little too much grease. I chose the bicycle gear grease. I didn't want anything very heavy. This is kind of light and kind of slick, but maybe I used too much. There's a lot of air volume in here, so I think it'll displace with speed and with heat, but not so much that I don't think it's gonna break down. And plus I'm never gonna go over the speed limit. Right, so anyway, this will work, I think. So that's great news. The other thing is these caps that go back in, obviously they had a hole in them that I drilled so I could pull them out. And what I did, instead of thinking about soldering the hole or putting some gasket maker in her, I used my drill, kind of countersunk a little bit of the hole, and I have these real tiny little screw, well, they're actually bolts, but from a bike application, little Allen head. And so I just made the hole just big enough to where this could create a thread, and I just thread it in there and it's nice and tight. Obviously it didn't countersink the whole way, but it is plugged. There's enough volume of space here that the screw showing through doesn't matter. It's not gonna hit anything in here. So I'll press these in, kind of collapse these tabs a little bit to hold it in, and wait for the new parts, and God willing, have a working mechanical speed sensor that has been rusty from what I understand. This transmission's been out of the car, just sitting for 14 years. It's over 30 years old to begin with, total, but that grime and rust just really took its toll on this one. So I'm super happy that it's smooth and functioning apparently well. Hopefully it'll work for years to come without any problems. All right, got the parts in, and finally, hopefully, the saga of the elusive mechanical speed sensor is gonna be over. I'm gonna put this thing together.